My name is Sarah Chen, and 20 years ago, my family gathered in my uncle's mansion to decide my future. They handed my $75,000 college fund to my cousin Jessica because she was going to become a doctor. "You're just going to study computers," my aunt sneered. "Jessica will save lives. You'll just fix printers or something." Then my grandmother, the woman who raised me, looked me dead in the eye and said the words that still echo in my head. "Some dreams matter more than others, Sarah. Yours don't." Last month, that same cousin who became a doctor sat in a bankruptcy lawyer's office while I signed the papers to acquire her family's medical practice. What I handed her afterward made her cry for 30 minutes straight. But before I tell you what happened in that room, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you've ever been the forgotten child in a family that plays favorites. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand how a computer science dropout became the only billionaire in my family line, I need to take you back to where it started. A house where I learned that blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who destroy you instead. The Chen family compound sits on 5 acres in Palo Alto, California. A sprawling contemporary house built by my great-grandfather, who immigrated from Taiwan with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Inside the main living room, there's a wall dedicated to family achievements. Medical degrees, pharmacy licenses, engineering certificates, law school graduations. 3 generations of success stories, all framed in matching gold frames. But here's what that wall doesn't show: the sacrifices, the pressure, the children who were pushed toward careers they never wanted just to maintain the family reputation, and the ones like me who were dismissed entirely because we didn't fit their predetermined mold. I'm the middle child of 3. My older brother David became an engineer like our father expected. My younger sister Lisa followed the family tradition into pharmacy school. And me? I was the glitch in their perfect system, the one who spent her time with computers instead of textbooks, coding instead of studying for the MCATs. My parents died in a car accident when I was 16. David was already in college, Lisa was just starting high school, and I was stuck in the middle, trying to figure out where I belonged. That's when my grandmother, Helen Chen, became our guardian. And that's when I learned that love can be conditional, even from the people who raised you. Grandmother Helen had strong opinions about success. Medicine was noble. Engineering was practical. Business was acceptable. But technology, computers, that wasn't a real career. That was playing games, wasting time, avoiding real responsibility. "You can't help people by staring at a screen all day," she'd say whenever she caught me programming. "You need to do something meaningful with your life." The favorite wasn't one of us 3 siblings. It was our cousin Jessica, Uncle Robert's daughter. Jessica was everything the Chen family valued. Pre-med at Stanford with a 3.9 GPA, volunteer work at the free clinic, MCAT scores in the 95th percentile. She spoke Mandarin fluently, unlike the rest of us American-born kids. She was respectful, obedient, and most importantly, she was going to be a doctor. At family dinners, Jessica sat at my grandmother's right hand, while the rest of us were scattered around the table like afterthoughts. Jessica got the choice pieces of fish, the first helping of rice, the undivided attention of every adult in the room. She'd discuss her anatomy classes, her rotation schedules, her plans for residency, while I sat quietly picking at my food, invisible. The comparison was constant and crushing. Why can't you be more like Jessica? Why don't you have her focus? Why are you wasting your talents on those computers? My grandmother would shake her head whenever my report cards came home. Straight A's in math and science, but she only saw the B+ in English, the missed opportunities, the potential I was squandering. People assume I chose computer science because it was easy for me. That's not true. I chose it because it was the only place I felt alive. While other kids were socializing or studying pre-med requirements, I was building websites for local businesses, learning programming languages, creating apps that solved real problems. I made my first $1,000 at 17, selling an inventory management system to a restaurant chain. But none of that mattered to Helen Chen. Technology was a phase, a distraction from my real purpose, which was apparently to follow in Jessica's footsteps and become something respectable. Medical school, law school, anything with the word school that came with prestige and family approval. My salvation was supposed to be my parents' life insurance policy, $75,000 set aside specifically for my college education. Not a massive fortune, but enough to cover 4 years at a good state school, maybe even a private university if I got scholarships. It was my independence, my ticket to study what I wanted, to become who I was meant to be. I should have known they'd find a way to take that too. The call came during my senior year of high school. Family meeting. Uncle Robert's voice was tight with what I thought was concern, but now recognizes calculation. Sunday at 2, the big house. Everyone needs to be there. This is about Jessica's future. That should have been my first warning. Family meetings were never about my future. They were about the golden children, the chosen ones, the kids who mattered. But I was 18, naive, and still hoping that someday they'd see my worth. I drove to Uncle Robert's mansion, a sprawling contemporary home in the hills with a circular driveway and a view of the entire Silicon Valley. The irony of that view wasn't lost on me, even then. We were literally looking down at the place that would eventually make my fortune, but all they could see was Jessica's future in medicine. The living room was already full when I arrived. Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda on the main sofa, looking serious. David had flown in from his engineering job in Seattle, still wearing his Microsoft polo shirt. Lisa sat cross-legged on the floor, notebook in hand like she was taking meeting minutes. And there, in the chair of honor next to Grandmother Helen, was Jessica in her Stanford Medical School hoodie, looking nervous but excited. I knew then that I was walking into an ambush. Grandmother Helen didn't waste time with pleasantries. She launched into a speech about family responsibility, about sacrifice, about how success in this family meant supporting each other's dreams. Her voice was steady, authoritative, the same tone she'd used to run her accounting firm for 40 years before retiring. Jessica has been accepted to Harvard Medical School, she announced, and the room erupted in congratulations. Hugs, tears of joy, promises about how proud the family was. I sat in the corner, wondering why they needed me there for Jessica's celebration. Then Grandmother Helen dropped the bomb. The problem is funding. Medical school at Harvard costs almost $90,000 a year. 4 years means $360,000, plus living expenses. Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda have already committed everything they can, but it's not enough. She turned to look directly at me. Sarah, I know your parents left money for your education, $75,000. That money could cover Jessica's first year and give her the foundation she needs to succeed. The room went silent. Not shocked silence, planned silence. They'd all discussed this already. I was the only one who didn't know I was about to lose my future. Grandmother, I started, but she cut me off. Sarah, you're going to study computers. You can do that anywhere. Community college, state school, online programs. You don't need Harvard. Jessica is going to save lives. She's going to make a difference in the world. That money will have a greater impact on her future than it ever could on yours. Uncle Robert leaned forward with his practiced compassion. Sarah, we know this is a big ask, but your family. When Jessica becomes a successful doctor, when she's established, the family succeeds. We all succeed. You'll benefit from her connections, her reputation, her success. I looked around the room. David wouldn't meet my eyes. Lisa stared at her notebook. Jessica sat perfectly still, not objecting, not defending me, just waiting for her windfall. That money was left specifically for my education, I said, and my voice didn't shake despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Your parents would want what's best for the family, Grandmother Helen replied. Jessica represents the best of what the Chen family can achieve. You represent potential that hasn't been defined yet. The dismissal in her voice was surgical, precise, devastating. Aunt Linda spoke up for the first time. Sarah, honey, let's be realistic. Computer science is a phase. Most people in tech burn out by 30. But doctors have careers that last a lifetime. Jessica will be financially secure forever. You'll probably change your mind about computers in a few years anyway. I wanted to scream, I wanted to list every program I'd written, every problem I'd solved, every client who'd paid me for solutions they couldn't find anywhere else. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. What if I say no? The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Grandmother Helen set down her teacup with a sound like a gavel. Then you'll pay for college yourself, and you'll do it without family support, without family connections, and without a place at this table until you learn what family loyalty means. The ultimatum hung in the air like smog. Give up my future, or lose my family. Support Jessica's dream, or be exiled from the only security I'd ever known. Jessica finally spoke. Sarah, I'll pay you back. When I'm established, when I have my practice, I'll make sure you get every penny back with interest. You're investing in my future, but that means you're investing in yours too. Looking back, I should have laughed. Should have pointed out the absurdity of gambling my education on Jessica's promises, her future success, her gratitude that might evaporate once she had everything she wanted. But I was 18, scared, and surrounded by people who'd already decided my worth. I said yes. Not because I believed their promises, but because I was young enough to think that giving up my dream might somehow make them love me. That sacrifice would finally earn me a place in the family that had always made me feel like an outsider. They took my $75,000. Jessica started Harvard Medical School that fall. I enrolled in community college and worked 3 jobs to pay for it. Food service in the morning, tutoring in the afternoon, freelance web development at night. I lived on ramen noodles and determination, watching my college fund disappear into Jessica's future while I scraped together enough credits to transfer to a state school. The family celebrated Jessica's achievements like they were national holidays. Every semester, every rotation, every board exam was an excuse for dinners and toasts and proud phone calls. Meanwhile, I was invisible again. The cousin who'd done the right thing and faded back into irrelevance where I belonged. I transferred to San Jose State after 2 years of community college. Computer science program, just like I'd always planned, but without the resources my parents had left me. Without the buffer that would have let me take unpaid internships or focus on my studies instead of working constantly to survive. But here's what the Chen family didn't understand about me, what they never bothered to learn. I didn't just love computers. I was obsessed with them. Not playing games or browsing the internet, but understanding how they worked, how to make them work better, how to solve problems that other people couldn't solve. While Jessica was memorizing anatomy textbooks, I was building apps. While she was studying for board exams, I was learning artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analysis. While she was doing rotations at hospitals, I was developing software that would eventually revolutionize how hospitals managed their operations. My first real breakthrough came during my junior year at San Jose State. I'd been working part-time for a small clinic, managing their computer systems, when I noticed how much time the doctors wasted on paperwork. Patient files, insurance forms, appointment scheduling. Everything was manual, inefficient, frustrating for both staff and patients. I spent 6 months building a comprehensive medical practice management system. Electronic health records, automated billing, inventory tracking, patient communication tools, everything integrated into one seamless platform. I tested it at the clinic where I worked, then refined it based on their feedback. The software saved them 12 hours of administrative work per week. 12 hours they could spend with patients instead of paperwork. The clinic's efficiency improved by 40%. Their patient satisfaction scores jumped, and their revenue increased because they could see more patients without hiring more staff. Word spread. Other clinics wanted my system, then larger practices, then hospitals. By my senior year, I was licensing my software to medical facilities across California and trying to balance college with a rapidly growing business. I graduated from San Jose State with a 3.8 GPA and a company that was generating $500,000 in annual revenue. Not bad for someone who was just fixing printers. The Chen family was not impressed. Sarah's doing well with her little computer thing, Grandmother Helen would say when people asked about me. But it's not a real career. She needs to think about her future, about stability. Technology is so unpredictable. Meanwhile, Jessica was thriving at Harvard. Top of her class, research publications, glowing recommendations from her professors. She was exactly what the family had invested in. The return on their $75,000 gamble with my future. And she never mentioned paying me back. For 5 years after graduation, I focused entirely on growing my company. MedFlow Systems went from managing a few local clinics to serving hospitals across the country. We developed specialized modules for different medical specialties, integrated with insurance systems, built mobile apps for doctors and patients. The breakthrough that changed everything came when we developed an AI-powered diagnostic assistant. Not to replace doctors, but to help them catch things they might miss, suggest treatment options based on millions of case studies, reduce errors that could cost lives. The system was revolutionary. Emergency rooms using our software reduced diagnostic errors by 60%. Patient outcomes improved dramatically. Hospital efficiency reached levels that had been impossible before. Major healthcare corporations started calling, not to license our software, but to acquire our company entirely. The bidding war lasted 3 months. Google Health, Microsoft Healthcare, Amazon, companies I'd dreamed of working for when I was coding in my dorm room. The final offer came from a consortium of healthcare investors who understood that MedFlow wasn't just software, it was the future of medical practice. $2.1 billion for the company I'd built from nothing. With my majority stake, I personally netted $1.3 billion after taxes. I was 31 years old, a billionaire, and the Chen family still thought I was wasting my potential. The call came from David, which was unusual because we barely talked anymore. "Sarah," he said, his voice strange and tight. "There's something you should know about Jessica." I was in my new office, a corner penthouse in downtown San Francisco, with a view of the bay, reviewing acquisition contracts. "Jessica what?" "She's in trouble. Big trouble. The practice she joined, the medical group she's been working with for 3 years, it's collapsing. Financial issues, insurance fraud, lawsuits. She's personally liable for some of the debt because she was a partner." I set down my pen. "How much debt?" David was quiet for a long moment. "Close to $2 million. She might lose everything. The house, the cars, the savings. She might have to declare bankruptcy." After I hung up, I sat in my office looking out at Silicon Valley, the place that had made my fortune while my family dismissed my dreams. Part of me felt vindicated. The golden child, the family investment, the doctor who was supposed to save us all, had crashed and burned. But mostly I just felt empty. 2 weeks later, I received an email I'd never expected to see. From Jessica Chen, MD. The subject line read, "Help." "Sarah," it began, "I know I have no right to ask this after everything that's happened, after how the family treated you, after promises I never kept. But I'm drowning. The practice I joined has collapsed, and I'm personally responsible for debts I can't pay. I'm about to lose my medical license, my house, everything I've worked for. I know you've done incredibly well with your company. I know you probably don't owe me anything, especially after I never paid back the money that was rightfully yours. But I'm hoping that maybe, for old time's sake, for family, you might consider helping me. I need $2.2 million to settle the debts and keep my license. I know it's a huge amount, but to someone like you, someone who sold their company for billions, it might not be impossible. I'll pay you back, I promise. With interest. Whatever terms you want. I just need a chance to rebuild." I read the email 3 times before I responded. "Jessica," I wrote back, "let's meet in person to discuss this." The restaurant I chose was important. A small Vietnamese place in my old neighborhood. The kind of place I'd eaten at when I was working 3 jobs to pay for community college, when Jessica was spending my college fund at Harvard. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking smaller and more fragile than I remembered. The confidence was gone. The certainty that the world owed her success because she was smart and worked hard and came from a good family. "Sarah," she said, standing up to hug me. I stepped back, not rudely, just maintaining distance. "Jessica," I said, sitting across from her, "tell me exactly what happened." The story she told was both predictable and tragic. The medical practice she'd joined had looked successful on the surface, but the senior partners had been engaging in insurance fraud for years. Overbilling, phantom procedures, kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. When the investigation started, the partners fled, leaving Jessica and 2 other junior doctors holding the bag for millions in fines and legal settlements. "I didn't know," she insisted, tears streaming down her face. "I was just seeing patients, doing my job, trying to build my career. I had no idea what they were doing behind the scenes." I believed her. Jessica was many things: privileged, entitled, blind to her advantages. But she wasn't a criminal. "How much do you owe personally?" I asked. $2.2 million in settlement fees, plus legal costs. If I don't pay within 60 days, I lose my medical license, and they pursue criminal charges. I pulled out my phone and started typing. "I could transfer the money right now," I said, not looking up. $2.2 million is nothing to me. It's less than I made in interest last month. Jessica's face lit up with hope. "But I'm not going to do that." The hope died instantly, replaced by confusion and fear. "Why?" she whispered. "Because 20 years ago I asked my family for help, and they told me my dreams didn't matter. Because you took my college fund without a second thought and never paid it back. Because when I was working 3 jobs to pay for community college, no one in this family cared whether I succeeded or failed. Sarah, please. I know we made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes?" I interrupted. "You didn't make mistakes. You made choices. The family chose to invest in you instead of me. You chose to accept money that wasn't yours. You chose to forget your promises when it was convenient. So what do you want?" Her voice was desperate now. "What can I do to make this right?" I leaned back in the booth, studying her face. The desperation was real. The fear was genuine. She was about to lose everything she'd worked for, everything the family had sacrificed my future to build. "I want you to understand something," I said quietly. "I could bail you out. I could transfer $2.2 million right now and never miss it. But I won't. Not because I'm cruel, but because you need to learn the lesson I learned 20 years ago." "What lesson?" "That sometimes the people who are supposed to support you will let you down. That sometimes you have to save yourself. That real strength comes from surviving without the safety net you thought you deserved." Jessica's hands were shaking now. "So you're just going to let me fail? After everything we've been through? I'm going to let you figure this out the same way I did when you took my college fund. With determination, hard work, and the realization that you're stronger than you think you are." I stood up to leave. "Sarah, wait." Her voice cracked. "What about family? What about loyalty?" I turned back to look at her. Family is who shows up when you need them most, not who shares your DNA. Loyalty is earned through actions, not demanded through guilt. You taught me that lesson 20 years ago. As I walked toward the door, I heard her sobbing. It should have made me feel powerful, vindicated, complete. Instead, it just made me sad. Sad for the girl who'd never learned to fail, who'd never developed the resilience that comes from hitting bottom and clawing your way back up. 3 months later, I learned that Jessica had declared bankruptcy and lost her medical license. She was working as a medical scribe at a clinic, making $15 an hour, trying to rebuild her life from nothing. Part of me wanted to feel guilty. Part of me wondered if I'd been too harsh, too cold, too focused on revenge instead of forgiveness. But then I remembered being 18 years old in Uncle Robert's living room, watching my family trade my future for Jessica's without a second thought. I remembered working 3 jobs while she lived comfortably at Harvard on money that should have been mine. I remembered every family gathering where my achievements were dismissed while hers were celebrated. I hadn't been cruel. I'd been honest. The Chen family reunion invitation arrived 6 months ago. Gold-embossed cardstock, formal script, the kind of invitation that screamed wealth and tradition. The annual gathering had continued for 20 years without me, and suddenly they wanted me back. I almost threw it away. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what had become of the family that had written me off, the relatives who'd dismissed my dreams as impossible fantasies. The reunion was held at Uncle Robert's mansion. the same house where they'd taken my college fund 2 decades earlier. I arrived in my Tesla Model S Plaid. Nothing too flashy, just quiet efficiency and understated luxury. The family was already gathered on the back patio. Uncle Robert looked older, grayer, more tired than I remembered. Aunt Linda's designer outfit couldn't quite hide the stress lines around her eyes. David was there with his wife and kids, still working as an engineer, still comfortable but not wealthy. And in the corner, almost invisible, was Jessica. She looked up when I walked onto the patio, and our eyes met for the first time since the restaurant. She was thinner, wearing clothes that had seen better days, holding a glass of water instead of wine. "Sarah!" Grandmother Helen's voice was bright with forced cheer. "You came. We've missed you so much." I looked at the woman who'd called my dreams worthless, who'd traded my future for Jessica's without a moment's hesitation. She was 89 now, still sharp but fragile in a way that made me understand why they'd invited me back. "Hello, Grandmother," I said quietly. "You look well. We're so proud of what you've accomplished," Uncle Robert said, stepping forward with his politician's smile. "We always knew you had potential. We just didn't understand the computer industry back then." The revisionist history was breathtaking. They'd gone from dismissing my dreams to claiming credit for my success in the space of a single sentence. I walked over to Jessica. She stood up uncertainly, not sure if I was going to embrace her or confront her. "How are you doing?" I asked. Her laugh was hollow. "I'm surviving. It's been a difficult few years." I nodded. It usually is when you have to rebuild from nothing. The family gathered around us, sensing drama but not understanding the dynamics. They knew Jessica had failed somehow, but they didn't know about our conversation at the restaurant, about the money I'd refused to lend, about the lesson in independence I'd tried to teach. "Sarah," Grandmother Helen said, sitting down carefully in her chair, "we owe you an apology." "Do you?" I asked. "For what?" "For not understanding your potential when you were young. For not supporting your dreams. For thinking that traditional careers were the only path to success." I looked around at the family that had once seemed so powerful, so certain of their values and priorities. They looked smaller now, diminished by their own limitations. "You don't owe me an apology for not understanding technology," I said. "You owe me an apology for taking my college fund and giving it to Jessica without asking my consent." The patio went silent. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. That money was my inheritance from my parents. It was designated specifically for my education. "You took it because you thought Jessica's dreams mattered more than mine." Uncle Robert cleared his throat. "Sarah, we thought we were doing what was best for the family. You were doing what was best for Jessica," I interrupted. "You were gambling with my future to secure hers. And when that gamble failed, when Jessica lost her medical license and went bankrupt, nobody called to apologize. Nobody offered to help me the way you'd asked me to help her." Grandmother Helen's face had gone pale. "We didn't know you'd become so successful. You thought I'd failed. I finished. You thought my dreams had led nowhere, just like you predicted. So why would you owe me an apology for being right?" Jessica spoke for the first time. "Sarah, I know I hurt you. I know I took something that wasn't mine to take. I've been trying to figure out how to make amends." I turned to look at her. "Have you?" "Yes." She reached into her purse and pulled out a cashier's check. "It's not the full amount with interest, but it's what I can afford right now. $15,000. It's half of what I've saved working at the clinic." I took the check and looked at it. $15,000. Less than what I made in an hour now. But it represented months of Jessica's life, working for minimum wage, trying to rebuild her career from nothing. "This is a start," I said. "But it's not about the money anymore." "Then what is it about?" Grandmother Helen asked. "Recognition," I said. "Understanding. An acknowledgement that you were wrong about me, wrong about technology, wrong about what matters in this world." I pulled out my phone and showed them a news article I'd saved. The headline read, "Medflow AI system credited with saving 50,000 lives in first year of implementation." "This is what you almost prevented," I said. This is what would have been impossible if I'd followed your advice, if I'd given up on computers and chosen a traditional career path. These are lives that were saved because I ignored your opinion of what mattered. The family stared at the article, finally understanding the scope of what they'd dismissed 20 years ago. Every diagnostic error prevented, every life saved, every doctor who can focus on patient care instead of paperwork. That's the legacy of the dreams you called worthless. I put my phone away and looked around the patio one more time. I forgive you for not understanding technology, I said. I forgive you for thinking medicine was more important than computer science. I even forgive you for taking my college fund, but I don't forgive you for making me feel worthless, for telling me my dreams didn't matter, for treating me like a resource to be harvested for someone else's benefit. I walked toward the patio door. Sarah, wait, Grandmother Helen called after me. We want to make this right. We want you to be part of this family again. I turned back to look at her. I am part of this family. I always was. The difference is that now I don't need your approval to know my worth. As I drove away from Uncle Robert's mansion, I thought about the 18-year-old girl who'd sat in that same house 20 years ago, watching her family trade her future for her cousin's dreams. She'd been heartbroken, confused, desperate for love and acceptance from people who saw her as expendable. I wish I could tell her that their blindness wasn't her failure, that their inability to see her potential said nothing about her worth, that the pain of their betrayal would eventually become the fuel for achievements they couldn't imagine. Most of all, I wish I could tell her that losing their approval was the best thing that ever happened to her, that being forced to prove herself alone would make her stronger than any safety net ever could. Today, MedFlow Systems operates in hospitals across 47 countries. Our AI diagnostic tools have prevented over 200,000 medical errors. The company that grew from my worthless computer dreams now employs 15,000 people and generates $3.2 billion in annual revenue. I've started a scholarship fund for students pursuing non-traditional careers, kids whose families don't understand their dreams, who are told their passions aren't practical or valuable. So far, we've funded 500 students in fields ranging from video game design to renewable energy research to social media marketing. The fund is called the Unconventional Dreamers Foundation, because sometimes the dreams that seem impossible to other people are the ones that change the world. 6 months after the reunion, I received a card from Jessica. No money inside, just a simple message. Thank you for teaching me that failing doesn't mean you're a failure. I'm applying to nursing school in the fall. Starting over at 42, but starting over nonetheless. I hope she succeeds. Not because I've forgiven her for taking my college fund, but because everyone deserves the chance to discover their own strength. As for the Chen family, they've slowly begun to understand that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. That supporting someone's dreams isn't a favor, it's a responsibility. That family loyalty works both ways, and forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. My grandmother still asks me to visit during holidays. I go sometimes, not because I need their approval, but because I've learned that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not a reward you give to others. The wall of family achievements in Uncle Robert's living room has been updated. There's now a frame with my college graduation photo and a news clipping about MedFlow's IPO. Too little, too late, but a recognition nonetheless that computer science turned out to be more than fixing printers. If you're watching this story, and you're the overlooked child, the one whose dreams don't fit your family's expectations, I want you to know something crucial. Their inability to see your potential doesn't diminish your worth. Their failure to support your dreams doesn't make those dreams less valid. You don't need their permission to be extraordinary. You don't need their understanding to change the world. You just need the courage to keep going when everyone around you says you're wasting your time. Some families invest in their children's dreams. Some families crush them. But in the end, your success or failure isn't determined by who believes in you. It's determined by whether you believe in yourself. I was told my dreams didn't matter. I was told computers were a phase. I was told I'd never amount to anything meaningful. Today, I'm the only billionaire in the Chen family line. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong, but because I refused to let them prove me wrong. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be, regardless of who believes you can do it. My name is Sarah Chen. I was the worthless child in a family that only valued traditional success, and I built an empire from the dreams they threw away. Before I go, I want to share something important. If you're holding on to anger at family members who didn't believe in you, who dismissed your dreams, who made you feel small, you have every right to that anger. But don't let it consume you. Don't let their blindness become your burden. Use their doubt as fuel, not poison. Let their dismissal motivate you, not define you. And remember that the best way to honor the dreams they couldn't see is to make them so successful that their opinion becomes irrelevant. That's my story. If it resonated with something in you, I'd love to hear yours. Drop a comment below, or just hit like if you're still finding your courage. Either way, know that your dreams matter, even if the people around you can't see their value yet. You matter. You always did. And your unconventional path might just lead to extraordinary places. Thank you for listening.